All right, Mets fans, welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. The MLB trade deadline is nearing its end at the time of this recording, and this comes just a couple of hours after the Mets acquired Cedric Mullins. As always, make sure to hit those thumbs up buttons on this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts and opinions. I definitely appreciate you all coming to the channel, checking out the content, and subscribing. So let's talk MLB trade deadline, and let's talk about Cedric Mullins and how he fits into the equation for the Mets in the second half. It's been a very busy last day of the MLB trade deadline. The Yankees are getting better, especially acquiring David Bednar from the Pirates. The Padres are basically going all in. Even when they are trying to move Dylan Cease, they are going all in. And they have acquired Mason Miller, Ramon Laureano, Ryan O'Hearn to address both the bullpen and getting some impactful bats. Now, we all know what the Mets have done. Yesterday was a really big day for the New York Mets, especially in the bullpen with Tyler Rogers and Ryan Helsley coming over from the Giants and the Cardinals, respectively. Now, there was a lot of smoke, and we've been talking about Luis Robert Jr. and what the asking price could have been from the White Sox. A lot of rumors were stating that it was Mark Vientos plus a couple of prospects, or Mark Vientos plus Luis Angel Acuna. Whatever it may be, clearly the Mets and the White Sox talks stalled, and therefore the Mets had to pivot to a guy like Cedric Mullins. Now, we've also talked about Cedric Mullins because I really do believe if the Mets were going to add a bat this deadline, it was going to be the likes of either Robert or Mullins. It was going to be one or the other, and a lot of other bats just simply didn't make sense with what we were hearing and how interested the Mets were per report. So Cedric Mullins is a New York Met. It took 3 lower-level prospects to get the deal done, and quite frankly, I'm not too mad about it. Now, that's because of what the value the Mets gave up in return. I still don't necessarily like the fit of Cedric Mullins. I do think that he's an offensive upgrade, 100% over Tyrone Taylor, but when you take into account the defense and the offense, how much of an upgrade are we really getting with Cedric Mullins? Now, we've talked about the splits and how Cedric Mullins could be a crucial part of this lineup in center field moving forward in the second half on a platoon basis, but he is not suited at this point until he proves otherwise to be an everyday player for the New York Mets. But it's very simple that the NL is getting better, and I will say, with all this being said, with Mullins, Gregory Soto, Helsley, and Rogers, the Mets definitely get better, and that's indisputable. And they only gave up one top 10 prospect to acquire all of these guys. Now, they gave up a lot of other value, especially within the top 20, top 25, and some lower level prospects in addition to a guy like Jose Butto, who was very crucial for the New York Mets, as we stated in the short clips that I posted on my channel yesterday. But I like the moves given the circumstances, but when you see the rest of the NL getting that much better, the Phillies, who also today acquired Harrison Bader, center fielder, to go alongside their big acquisition yesterday in Juan Duran. The Padres getting better as well. The Dodgers getting some relief help from the Minnesota Twins. So the NL's getting better. The Mets got better. I think that is a very true statement, but we have to continue to talk about the lack of moves surrounding the starting rotation. That's the last point here, because as of just a couple of minutes ago, Andy Martino stated, after Cedric Mullins, do not expect a big move from the New York Mets, and that is what he is hearing. So that likely means that if the Mets go ahead and get a starter, it's not going to be a big name if they get a starter at all. Now, we've talked about Nolan McLean, Brandon Sproat, how they could come up in the second half and be true difference makers in both the bullpen or the rotation, whatever David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza decide on that front. But it's just a lot of things left on the table, a lot of players left on the table from the starting pitching market. I don't know if Mitch Keller's going to get traded. A lot of rumors has it that he's going to actually stay in Pittsburgh. Sandy Alcantara, we're still waiting on a verdict with him, and Edward Cabrera from the Marlins organization. There were definitely opportunities, I would say, starting pitching-wise, to go ahead and make this rotation even stronger and perhaps add a starter so that Clay Holmes can move into the bullpen if the Mets were comfortable doing that in the second half, given the innings that he has posted this year for the first time in probably ever in his career with this amount of innings. But I do think that the Mets are going to rely on the prospects in the second half pitching wise. But for me, and I've said this time and time again, leading up into this MLB trade deadline, the aspect of the New York Mets that needs to get better is by far the lineup. The lineup has to start producing and they have to start pulling their weight. Now, they have been, as of recent, outside of the very abysmal Padres series in which they got swept. We saw a lot of offensive explosions in that Giants series that they swept in San Francisco. Hopefully that can continue against this very same Giants team this next upcoming series in New York. But all in all, the first half was not a good one for the New York Mets offense. They need to get it together. And hopefully with the addition of Cedric Mullins and hopefully with this lineup and the guys that are supposed to be producing, getting it together, we're going to see that alongside this decent rotation that's performed pretty well in the first half and also now this elite bullpen. And we still have to see how the bullpen produces. They lose Jose Butto. They add on 3 viable options, especially in the back end of the bullpen. They can slot Ryan Stanek down, so that's looking good. We need the production and we need this team to finally gel together, and we haven't really seen that in the first half of baseball or first half plus of baseball so far. So Mets fans, I definitely appreciate you all as well. Just coming to the channel, checking out the content. Clearly, I'm still on the road, but I wanted to release this video giving you all my thoughts and opinions about this MLB trade deadline. You know, if I had to grade this trade deadline for the Mets, I'd give it a solid B+, but I do think that there was another area of which the Mets could, or 2 areas really, the Mets could have gotten even better than they did. I do think that Luis Robert Jr. and making a deal there, even though it didn't happen, right? Completely content with Cedric Mullins, but Robert Jr. would have been that game changer potentially for the New York Mets, even given the slow start in the first half for him statistically and kind of turning it on as of recent, and also the starting pitching rotation, a rotation that has done fine, but we just don't know how it's going to hold up over the longevity of the second half. I think they could have used another mid-tier starter, and they couldn't get any deals done as of the time of this recording. Now, there's still about an hour, maybe 50 minutes left of the trade deadline, and I probably will post this as the deadline is ending. So if there is another move that the Mets make that is major, that means Andy Martino was wrong, and I will probably make a short clip about it. But as of right now, per Martino's report, we're not going to see most likely anything major from the New York Mets in terms of a trade. Maybe they find a different organization for some of these guys that need to reallocate, like a Paul Blackburn. I've heard his name thrown around that they want to offload him and trade him elsewhere to free up a roster spot with the guys that they got coming up, or maybe coming into this organization via the farm system, if that's going to be the residual move. But we will just have to wait and see. And at this point, it's a waiting game. So let's go Mets. I do think that this roster is built for a championship run. This is a playoff contending team without a doubt, as they've proved so far this season. But this is a team that can still win this division, and they are right there neck and neck with the Philadelphia Phillies. So hit those thumbs up buttons, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all on the next video. Peace.